Hi, what's up?
Oh, hello?
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
I have to contain myself. I have so much to say, and I don't want to be for 3 hours. But just I did listen to his explanation about the language thing.
Hmm.
So I just watched Zelensky's bit for with him, like in original without the dub, with the AI dub, for my week panel because Week invited me to talk about this.
Hmm.
So
Just
I just
for just for clarity, do you speak fluent Russian and Ukrainian?
yes.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
And sort of English, as you noticed. So
Okay.
it's one thing though. I watched it with you just now, together, and it's such bullshit. It's such bull. Let me start. I'm a translator, like as a profession right
Hmm.
now. So I work. What I do is exactly what he says is barely possible to do. Apparently, juggle usually Ukrainian, Russian, and English.
Hmm.
So those are the three most common languages that Ukrainian will know, especially a translator. And right now, there is zero shortage of professional translators and interpretation people in Ukraine. As you can probably know why, because there's a bunch of journalists
Hmm.
that are doing interviews with people who are
Yeah.
foreigners. I did them with like smaller streamers, like Dylan, Devin. I did it them for The Economist, for example. People like of the big legacy journals, all sorts of people, right?
Yeah.
And usually, what I do is I'm there, right, and I am interpreting live back and forth, back and forth. So the
Hmm.
questions to the person, and then what they say in the short form, and then afterwards I do the full transcript, subtitles, right,
Hmm.
of the Russian or Ukrainian bits, and then when I finish it, and then I present it to the person who asked for it as a job, right? And then they make either just subtitles or they make dub over those human-made subtitles, right?
Hmm.
By me or someone else, right?
Yeah.
And he is talking with the president,
Yeah, if
with a
it's not like
huge
this is like
media
it's not like
platform.
this is a live conversation that's like, on the front lines where like time is of the essence. Like this is a prepared
Yeah, well,
interview where
with
you've
what we
got
do.
all the
Yeah.
time in the world and you've got like it's
Listen,
a little silly. Yeah. Yeah.
if we can do it on the literal front line, I
Yeah.
did that shit in fucking Chasiv Yar, okay? Like at the front line, we can do it there. Then he can fucking do it in Kiev with United 24, for example, is media that is Zelensky's essentially media thing, right? Media platform.
Hmm.
Do you think there are no people there who can do a translation, a proper one? Are we for real right now?
The
Why
only,
did
I
he
mean,
make
the
it?
the only difference could be if, and I mean, I heard this wasn't the case, but I can't judge it. That's what I'm going to say. The only exception I could see is if it was the case that Lex was like incredibly fluent in Russian and then could express like the full
No, it's
gamut
not.
of, okay, then that would be the only way I could see it as
I
being kind
thought
of
so
acceptable.
too. I actually tried to be as charitable as humanly possible, not to let my personal dislike, influence me. So when that whole controversy happened, when he made this public tweet, essentially pressuring, unironically, Zelensky to do the Russian interview in Russian,
Hmm.
and so many people were like, oh, Ukrainians got hell ass paint, as you probably imagine. Like a lot of people got like, oh, those fucking Ukrainians, they just, they're so triggered. Why can't they do it in Russian? All of that, right?
Hmm.
So there was a lot of conversation about that. And I was like, well, if we like look at this in a vacuum, like remove all context, the history, the how important it is to preserve Ukrainian language, all of that, remove all of that, right? And just in vacuum, two people like know the language, right? And they can speak. The flow of the conversation will be sort of like, as Lex said, the best as it can be in language that both people speak fluently, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So I gave him the benefit of the doubt that was his intent. But of course you cannot remove the fucking context, especially right now when Ukrainian language is prohibited again in occupation.
Hmm.
People are thrown in basements right now for speaking Ukrainian. Okay, this is not the time. We cannot afford. He is a president. If I was speaking to Lex, for example, I can speak with him in English. First of all, fuck you. And second of all, if I could afford to speak with him in Russian, I could, right? I'm just a regular person. Zelensky is a face of a nation that is fighting right now to be Ukraine, okay? He can, his approval rating will drop like 30% if he spoke in Russian in this interview. It's just absolutely like, and he knows it. He knows it. Let's not pretend that he doesn't know it. He's acknowledging it himself in the fucking video itself, that there is that language is important, that it's a sensitive topic in Ukraine, to put it mildly. He knows it. So why the hell didn't he say that in DMs, for example, with Zelensky team? No, he made a public Twitter. He made it for everyone to see and discuss for a week after Zelensky agreed to an interview, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's just, there is like this, and his language ended up, he speaks Russian about as well as Zelensky speaks English, okay? So I wouldn't say it's awful, but it's definitely not what I would say fluent. So what the fuck, man? Like, it would have been the same difference if he spoke English all the time. Like it's just. It was a fucking power move, okay? I will not back down from this. It was a power move. He tried to pressure him to essentially, and all the excuses as well. Like he was like, "Oh, the Russians will hear you. They already heard us."
Yeah.
Zelensky addressed them in Russian like bajillion times for entire year of the war. He addressed people. He made addresses in Russian towards Russians. All of us did. We have Telegram channels that we talk, all of us in Russian. They still are in our fucking chats, okay, Russians. Mm-hmm. So it's just the east of Ukraine speaks Russian. We all know it. So it's absurd. They heard all of it. Nothing new will be achieved with this fucking interview. Okay, American audience, sure, right? Yeah, that might be important, right, for the American audience to hear it, but they will not listen to it in Russian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was I was wholly unconvinced. It's also bad too because like I can't speak as much to an Eastern thing, but in the West, like for us, like language is just language. But like if you know anything about Ukraine and Russia and the weird like cultural signaling that Putin has done around like Ukraine and Russia and like the long lost deep brothers and everything, like it just seems it's such a touchy subject.
I meant,
yeah, exactly. I'm reiterating a lot of what you said. Yeah, the idea that like, okay, let's have the Ukrainian leader now speak in Russian because we are all brothers and we all do have peace and love.
No.
And, like, it's just it's such a weirdly cringe. Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. It's so weird.
Yeah. By the way, you asked you not asked that you like contemplated essentially like when the language thing started to be a problem. It started to be a fucking problem in 1863. Okay. In 1863 was the first law of the prohibition of Ukrainian language by Russian Empire. Uh-huh. So it's a long thing. Okay. It's a centuries long thing. And the preservation of Ukrainian language and Ukrainian identity has been basically the crux, the whole point, the essence, okay, of this entire struggle, of them executing our writers, of our poets, of them prosecuting the language, of them prohibiting language or to be books to be published, schools to be teaching it, of them trying to basically every trick in the book to try to eliminate the language, okay? Mm-hmm. And they succeeded in some parts of the, of the country, and there has been a revival of the Ukrainian language, which is great, obviously, right? Because in Belarus, for example, they killed it, the language,
Yeah.
Belarusian, I mean. Yeah, so it's just it's so fucking, it's not even tone deaf, because it would be tone deaf if he wasn't a fucking Russian himself.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. And if he hadn't read 10 books on it and skimmed numerous others and listened to hundreds of hours of,
Oh, fuck me, dude. It's just so, I will not, if that was like some sort of like a Joe Rogan person, I don't know, like that for some reason I don't know, doesn't make sense. That I talked with actually like one British dude who is a journalist, and he knows Russian relatively well, but he's not Russian. He just learned it for the work he was doing. So I could that would be one thing, but this person is also Russian. like he presents himself as Ukrainian, and I suppose his like grandparents were in Kiev, but he was born in Tajikistan, and then he spent all of his time in Moscow. And then he moved to United States. Okay, it's just.
It's
Like, what
also
the
weird too.
fuck?
You got like it's also weird too, and I don't know his history as much, but I imagine it's a bit different to say that like, oh, like my family's background and everybody was like born in Ukraine and all of this when they were also born into the Soviet Union. Like I feel like the relationship is going to be a bit different there as well, right? If you're born into the Soviet Union and then he grew up in, did you say Moscow and Petersburg or Moscow and somewhere else? Like it's just it feels like a lot of the time there's a lot of the trying to like buy credit and everything, and it's like it feels really stupid.
Yeah, they also use it only when it's fucking convenient. Like for example, that fucking kissing dude, he was like, "Oh, I have a family." He's in Russia. He was born in Russia. He was born in Moscow. He lived in
That guy,
Moscow. Okay, he's not Ukrainian. Yeah, but he then was like, "Oh, I have family like that is in Ukraine. Fucking settlers in Crimea." Okay, so it's just extremely, and I'm so over people thinking that's like naivety, or it's like some sort of like silliness, weak, with all my love to weak. Okay, but I didn't even know it when I went to the panel, but he was like, what, it's stupid, he should do an interview with Russian. He said it weak, like apparently I didn't even know it, like, because Lex is such a great guy apparently, and he couldn't have a bad intent.
Yeah, but then also there has to be like some level of responsibility. There can't be naivety as well, right? One thing that I don't like, I've had this conversation in real life a couple times recently, at least in the West, there's this huge divorce between politics and the real world. And it's like politics is kind of just like a game and a joke, and it's just like content, and it's just like fun stuff to talk about. But it's like you're having like a conversation with the actual real life president of a country that is actually in a real life war right now, where people are actually real life dying, like in war. Like this, it's not just like a YouTube video where you're going for maximum engagement on. So it can't just be like, oh, I'm naive and I didn't know anything. Like that's the fact that you even have this level of access is like insane. And to take it for granted to do content is just very weird. And I don't know.
True that, but also like he presents himself as someone who's like an expert, sort of. Like
yeah, exactly. He expertises himself. Yeah, the ethnic, the familial background, all the books, all the yeah.
And there's a lot of subtle things that it's difficult to pick up for Americans, I suppose, who don't know all the. For example, the thing that he did with the language, that the Russian language is so much better for communication because it's a melodic, emotional. Okay, it's a superior language. You don't know this meme, obviously, because you're American. But this one of the most central memes in Russia, that English is inferior. It's the language of the sellers, and it's the language of the inferior variety, because in Russian is the language of poets, of Pushkin, or whatever the fuck, Huyushkin, all of that. But English is inferior. It has been something I heard so much growing up. For example, like cultural figures like Zadornov, he's like a comedian and a political person, like a social commentator in Russia. He's dead, I believe, right now. He's of old age, but he was like doing entire like performances based around how fucking retarded and stupid English is, and how glorious and like aristocratical and filled with feeling and sound and music Russian languages. So it's also like basically a meme what he did there. So you probably won't know it, but there was like even this meme that Russians said they can't watch movies in original because Russian dub is just so superior.
Nice. Okay.
Like, it always made me like my face would like cringe, because it's just so. First of all, like actors obviously are better than fucking dub people. Okay, like in most cases, like actors perform better if you listen to them speak in the actual language they speak in, right? And first of all, second of all, Russian dub was shit. It was always shit. It was incredibly. It was horrible translation. Like absolutely lost half the plot of the movie when you listen to Russian translation. But they always said that they don't want to scar their ears. Okay, with that dog speak. Okay, so that's also a meme. Like it's a complete and utter crap. If you know the language, you can express yourself well in it, no matter what. Like obviously, I can express myself probably a bit better in Russian because of it's my original language. But yes, if you're like a professional translator, you can make this connection between the languages easy. So yeah, it's pretty fucking horrible and dumb, and I'm shook people still don't understand all of that. But also when he was like asking questions, like you pointed it out, thank fuck, at least you see it. I was like borderline removing tears. I'm like, oh, someone understands that he asked all the memes, all the questions that are propaganda about the about the martial law, for example. That's one of the biggest memes, right? That like Zelenskyy is actually a dictator, and he's throwing those poor Ukrainians to die for his own gain on the front lines. That's like the biggest like thing, right? And he asked that in a polite way, in a gentle way, okay? But that's the same question.
But even past the just. Like it would even be better to ask, like, do you want to talk about martial law maybe or something like that, rather than to like assume that it's already been passed in like, because as soon as you say that, especially to Western audiences, like that's like the worst thing in the world, especially to Americans, like martial law, holy shit, all the freedoms are gone. And then to pretend like there's some conflict between martial law as it's laid out constitutionally in a time of war versus freedom. And it's like, what? Like, yeah, I don't know. This whole thing
because the implication is
that he's fighting against freedom.
Yeah, that he's not actually the democratic president, that he's not actually about the democracy and freedom and liberation, because he, as you know, did a martial law. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is the most retarded point, because, excuse me, like I know like most of Americans didn't actually like know about fighting in World War II, but nobody asked my grandparents, okay, whether they want to go to fight Nazis or not.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't asked. Their opinion wasn't asked, and there wasn't even an age limitation. Everyone was fucking thrown at the front, like 18, whatever the fuck, right? Barely born alive, go to the front, dude, right? Nobody asked. Our actual martial law is 10 times gentler than it usually is in situations like this. So it's so fucking annoying. We haven't even removed the age limit from 25.
Mm-hmm. And the way that framing goes too is it's always presented as though like basically like, why do you guys keep like doing this? Is so retarded. Like, why don't you just like stop fighting like this war? Like, it's just like such an obviously stupid thing to be fighting a war, and it's so dumb. And like, why don't you just stop? Like, you know that people are dying, right? Are you stupid? Like, why are you fighting a war? Ukraine just chose it.
Dude, it's like it's just unbearable. It's so stuck and stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just the same thing with the elections, right? That's also a big meme.
Oh yeah, like why did you put And then, like, who do you think is going to win in the next elections? LOL. Like, do you think you're going to win the debate? LOL. And it's like, that we're like, it's like a war right now, right? Like, there's like people like probably dying, like literally right now. It's like this is a real thing. Are you going to come to the inauguration? LOL. Like, I don't know. It just feels like it felt like a fucking meme. It felt like a meme interview to me. Yeah. Holy fucking shit.
Election is also that like thing about him being like the dictator, because I have been told so much, like by bots, by Russian bots, like by MAGAs, by all sorts of people, leftoids, like all sorts of people essentially, right? That repeat Russian propaganda one way or the other. Mm-hmm. They would be like, oh, you don't even have like democracy. I'm like, no shit, genius, sorry, Russian. Russian anger.
Breaking out the Dota 2 vocab, okay.
Yeah, it is the vocab, okay. I am from Kharkiv, okay? I am the poor Russian speaker that Putin came to defend. Mm-hmm. He defended my father spectacularly, okay? But point is that it's just so like. Obviously we want to obviously we fought for that on Maidan, right? Me personally, to have democracy, to have proper laws and institutions working, but it's not fucking our fault that Russia invaded us and we have to suspend all of that shit. Mm-hmm. Like why is it how much money do you want to bet that Lex will not ask Putin about fucking him throwing people at the front?
That was my question was going to be like, are you going to ask Putin, hey, Putin, when are you going to hold fair elections? Because I said I would walk back all of my criticism of Lex. If he actually asks those types of questions of Putin, I'd be like, you know what? Fine, I'll give him a pass on it. If he would actually ask Putin, when are you going to... So people have accused you of like cracking down on freedoms a lot. What happened to Navalny? What was going on there? Yeah, but...
And all the other people, Nemtsov, mm-hmm. who got killed and shot and thrown. You know what? Actually, probably Lex shouldn't ask those questions, because I don't want him to fly off the window. So
Jeez, yeah.
Actually, when we were having the panel with Mercado, Andrew brought it up that his friend, journalist, actually tried to ask Putin some questions and was taken to another room, and they beat him. That's pretty typical for Russia, but it's just Lex it shouldn't probably ask any provocative language or any provocative questions because it's fucking Russia, okay? You can get all sorts of shit happen to you. Never mind the fact they can just be used there, stuck there, and used as a bargaining chip or some shit. Like it's obviously they will have to coordinate every single fucking thing.
Sounds like you don't believe in peace and love, but okay.
I mean, yeah, I believe in hate, apparently. Why hate when you can love, okay? Also, every time he said, I have a dream, I died inside a little bit. But other than that, I like how Zelenskyy is like, listen, so this is for 15 minutes, right? This is why Minsk failed because this, and that. This is why the negotiations with Russia are useless. This is why the guarantees need to be like NATO because otherwise every other assurances we got didn't really give us anything because this, and that. Normandy, Budapest Memorandum, like actual dates, actual events, actual facts and logic and facts, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And Lex then doesn't address any of that
or engage with any of it. Yeah, the lack of engagement on the questions was so fucking annoying.
And he's like a fucking NPC with a dialogue tree. He's like, I have a dream though, that you, Putin, and Trump will sit down and make peace. Every time, literally every time. Also, people say he's not doesn't know what he's doing, but I don't know if you noticed that, but I really noticed that. Oh, there was this one moment when he asked about the most retarded question of the entire interview, in my opinion, was about Putin loving his country. And Zelenskyy, kind of chuckled and then proceeded to say, how the fuck does where is his country, first of all? Where does it end? Where does it stop? Because he considers Ukraine his country, Yeah. And second of all, he's thrown more than 500,000 people to fucking die in Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
And how the fuck is that love? And Chechen people that hundreds of thousands of people that were butchered in 2 wars. How's that love exactly? And he brings up all of that, and then he finishes Zelenskyy with the weakest point of everything he said prior, which was him not going to the front, not going to anywhere to Russia, not visiting Russia, not even caring about it. But in Ukrainian, you can understand that he actually meant that Putin doesn't even give a fuck. He doesn't live like Moscow or anything. All the bumfuck.
Well, he did leave Moscow. He did leave Moscow once, remember?
Well, Prigozhin, you mean?
To run away from him. Yeah, I did leave them.
Our bravest dictator, yeah. So thing is, he brings it up, that he doesn't really, and Lex launches into it. This last bit does not address Chechen thing, does not address throwing 500,000 people on the front, does not address his, anything, but addresses this last bit by saying, I think Trump loves his country, but he hasn't been everywhere. And you're like,
yeah, it's just stupid. It's just dumb. We have limited time. Yeah, I don't know. It's whatever. It's dumb, but yeah. Okay, there's a couple of things I have to run through. I have to leave pretty soon because I have a dinner that I'm doing tonight.
Okay, no problem.
No, I went it. Are there any other big points you remember? What did you go over on the WIC panel that you thought was the biggest stuff?
I mean, we mostly just talk about which points we didn't really appreciate, and also we made some predictions about Putin interview. It wasn't that big of a. Mostly it was friendly because I was Dylan, me, and Andrew, and we're all Ukraine dudes. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't really we just Vic was the biggest Lex fan there, but we tried to not to shit on him too much, obviously. I'm glad it happened though. Yeah. So it's not I'm against it. Yeah.
Do you think that Lex will actually get an interview with Putin?
Maybe, but kind of depends on how this whole situation goes. I think they will look how this went, and maybe they will like his interview with Zelenskyy, who knows? But I think it would make sense for them to agree because he can just sit there looking profound and soulful and, ask deep questions about Papa Putin and Mama Putin and his childhood or some shit, and it can be like all like that. And problem with Putin though is that even if Zelensky asks him the softest questions imaginable, for example, like Tucker Carlson, right?
Yeah.
Tucker didn't ask like literally anything. Putin is still can go on his unhinged Rurik in 1918 rant, right? So he can still go about like the ancient history he made up, and I just don't know how it will measure, because whatever you want to say about Zelensky, he came up, in my opinion, as a very human and like a real person, like approachable and kind of like likable, like like a person, right? With Putin is like a dead fucking shark. Like he's like a literal ghoul. He cannot come off as approachable or like a relatable or like a real person at all. So I'm like, he doesn't even care about anything American, really. Like Zelensky at least spoke about like Trump, about fucking Elon, about lobbying. Apparently, MAGAs really liked that bit when he talked about.
Yeah, although Putin's
how strong Trump is.
Putin's in a weirder spot, I guess, because Putin's not even trying to appear or appeal to the West. I guess he just needs to appeal to Trump personally somehow. So
So I don't know. You also, one thing you said, I'm not sure exactly what you meant. You said like in the East, people are more pro-Russian, and what did you mean? You said like
I think isn't there like a higher concentration of Russian speakers, or a higher concentration of people with slightly more favorable views towards Russia in Crimea and then in eastern Ukraine, and then as you go more west,
they used to be.
Sure, yeah, I know those numbers have changed after the war has gone down, but
yeah. But there's like also another issue, like for example, before 22, I would say like with full chest, yes, even despite 2014. Crimea, definitely, most people are Russian there, so it's, another thing. But in Donbass, still the majority of people didn't want to, go to Russia. There's no proof of that anywhere. And also of course, their opinion significantly fucking changed. In Kharkiv, for example, like people were more sympathetic to Russia. I wouldn't say they were like, pro-Russian exactly, but a lot of people were like, Russia, Russia, it's positive relations, right? And now it's like drastically fucking negative, because we haven't slept for 3 years and we are bombed every day. So, it's just kind of difficult to like them at this point, never mind the mass graves and all of that shit, which, by the way, Lex didn't ask about and, of course, didn't visit. Yeah. In his video, he visited Babin Yar, which is all right. He's a Jewish person, so that, makes sense to visit. By the way, Russians fucking bombed Babin Yar, but he didn't say anything about it. The memorial to Jewish people who were killed by Nazis. He didn't say that Russians bombed it, but whatever, doesn't matter. He visited that, but he, of course, didn't visit mass graves in Izium or like in Bucha or some shit. He didn't visit places where Russians committed crimes. He just went specifically to talk about the history of World War II, which is
the least controversial.
Quite interesting. But anyway, you're right though, but because there is a problem, of course, because most people who escaped now, like of the 10 million people, right, that are now not living where they used to, most of them left either to Ukraine, other parts of Ukraine, or they left to like abroad somewhere, right? Poland or some shit, Germany, and things like that. So it leaves a problem, of course, of people who have stayed, why they stayed exactly, right? Some of them are just, stubborn assholes that don't want to leave. Some of them were afraid to leave. Some of them couldn't leave because of the shelling, and there was no green corridors available because Russia wouldn't allow it. Or they're waiters, as we call them, right? So people who are waiting for Russia to win as well. So there's that. Also, Russians like brought up thousands upon thousands of people of theirs already. They deported like 100,000 people from Melitopol and brought just about the same number of Russians there right now. We know that for sure. So that's the question as well. Like, what the fuck do you do with these motherfuckers? Like, they're there already, like deport them or some shit. Like, it's quite difficult to think about it, but it's also stupid because we have to take that back first.
Yeah.
And then think about all of that, I suppose. But it's a situation, let's say. Also, he didn't say a word about the fact that Zelensky brought up. How the fuck are we arranging elections without 10 million people being able to vote? Nothing.
Because of the people who are out of the country or whatever?
Yes, because 8 million are migrated, right? You have a couple millions in occupation. You have also 1 million in the army right now serving. So how the fuck those people are going to vote exactly. Like it's we don't have like internet voting or anything, so you have to do this new whole thing, like new administrative thing, to make it work. And do I even want to? Like on one hand, sure, but on the other hand, maybe the new elected people will be shit, at conducting war and diplomacy and things like that. And in times like this, I'm not like the biggest Zelensky simp on earth, to be honest, but I'm not sure I want someone else, because I know he's at least doing a pretty solid job of it, whatever you think of him, right? So that's a big risk that is probably not the best time to take such risks. And how do you even do it? Like, do you vote underground so they don't bomb people while they're voting?
Yeah,
like,
there's probably a reason why elections can be postponed during wartime, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, like, man, seriously, it was annoying as shit, but I'm glad it happened. Because I think Zelensky did quite good, and I think it was a good showing. And apparently some MAGAs were very happy that he said Trump is strong and Kamala is weak, and they really loved that part. So maybe that helped us. I don't know.
All right. Well, I will talk to you another day. Be careful. Stay safe. Okay.
Yeah. Bye.
Sorry, fuck. I was moving links over here. The fuck is this?
Change your mind like a girl.
I don't care. This is about the Facebook stuff. I think I can go over that. Dr. K is in town for a show tomorrow. I'm going to go eat dinner with him soon.
It's Jover, isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't it?
Fuck, hold on. Get into my daily memes real quick. The fuck is this?
Start where we're going. Tell me where we start.
It's a Ukrainian striker mowing down Russians. Like running them over? Is that what he's trying to do? Jesus Christ.
Blackwell family. Let's take a look. This is RTX 4090. Well, now with the Blackwell family, RTX 5070. 4090 performance at 549. And here's the whole family. Starting from 5070 all the way up to 5090. 5090, twice the performance of a 4090.
The more money you save, the more you buy, the more you save. That's right.
4090 performance at 549.
The highlight of the
Okay.
January 20th. And I was so fired up watching the press conference today when President Trump said that he's going to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, that I directed my ledge staff to immediately draft legislation. And we are entering it right now to officially change the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. And Congress has to do this because we have to fund the name change in maps. We have to fund the name change through all types of, like the military,
Good. What a good use of our money. Thank you.
FAA, et cetera. And it's absolutely the right thing to do. We change post office names all the time up here. You better bet we are absolutely going to change the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Let's go.
Okay.
January 20th. And I was so fired up watching the press conference today when President Trump said that he's going to rename the
Okay.
Sam Allardyce, the manager of East London football club West Ham United, has hit out at the team's fans, saying that anyone caught making racist and anti-Semitic chanting should be banned from matches after an incident at a game last week in which fans chanted "Adolf Hitler, he's coming for you," and hissed, mimicking the gassing of Jews during the Holocaust.
Oh my God, Jesus Christ. Really? Really? Okay.
Very, very disappointing.
Somebody said they found the real reason why Trump is going after Panama. Wow.
As you all realized, this is a purely commercial dispute that just spun out of control. And today, this dispute has been settled.
The lore on this hotel goes so deep, it's full of corruption and money laundering.
By the judges and the authorities of this country. Today, Panama has showcased a stable institutions, rule of law.
Okay. Fuck. All right. I just want to run over this Facebook shit real quick. What is this? I'm amused by Trump's talk of taking Greenland. Or renaming the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. It's deeply unlikely, but I'd be in favor of buying Greenland. But talk of invading Panama, Greenland, or unleashing hell in Gaza is crazy and against his supposed anti-war stance. And the Palestinians have already been through hell. Netanyahu is Israeli Dick Cheney. And he already slaughtered those people with our money. Trump should be putting pressure on the country we're giving $30 billion to. If you want to get peace, you use your $30 billion in leverage. Okay. The title is Calling Women Household Objects Now Permitted on Facebook after Meta updated its guidelines. Meta on Tuesday announced sweeping changes to how it moderates content that will roll out in the coming months, including doing away with professional fact-checking. But the company also quietly updated its hateful conduct policy, adding new types of content users can post to the platform, effective immediately. Users are now allowed to, for example, refer to women as household objects or property, or transgender or non-binary people as it, according to a section of the policy prohibiting such speech that was crossed out. Apparently, the Zuck made a statement on this.
Hey everyone. I want to talk about something important today, because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political, but there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly.
Wait, what? Okay, terrorism and child exploitation, very bad. Drugs? Is that really in the same class of thing there? Okay, Jesus Christ.
But there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes, similar to X, starting in the US. After Trump first got elected...
Yeah, why would we have cringe fact checkers when we could brigade community note systems? Hell yes.
In 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created.
Examples?
Especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system. Second, we're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse. What started as a movement to be more inclusive has increasingly been used to shut down opinions and shut out people with different ideas, and it's gone too far. So I want to make sure that people can share their beliefs and experiences on our platforms. Third, we're changing how we enforce our policies to reduce the mistakes that account for the vast majority of censorship on our platforms. We used to have filters that scanned for any policy violation. Now we're going to focus those filters on tackling illegal and high severity violations. And for lower severity violations, we're going to rely on someone reporting an issue before we take action. The problem is that the filters make mistakes, and they take down a lot of content that they shouldn't. So by dialing them back, we're going to dramatically reduce the amount of censorship on our platforms. We're also going to tune our content filters to require much higher confidence before taking down content. The reality is that this is a trade-off. It means we're going to catch less bad stuff, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down. Fourth, we're bringing back civic content. For a while, the community asked to see less politics because it was making people stressed, so we stopped recommending these posts. But it feels like we're in a new era now, and we're starting to get feedback that people want to see this content again. So we're
Thank God. I was worried because one time I clicked on a Jordan Peterson post on Facebook and I didn't get recommended 400 other far-right authoritarian podcasts with Joe Rogan and Eric and Brett Weinstein and all the other like far-right conservative people. Thank God now I can go down that hole. Yes.
We're going to start phasing this back into Facebook, Instagram, and Threads while working to keep the communities friendly and positive. Fifth, we're going to move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California and our...
What the fuck? Not the California moderation teams.
Our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California.
Please say to Austin, Texas. Please just say to Texas. Please say to Austin, Texas. Please, 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 please.
Yeah. And our US-based content review is going to be based in Texas.
All right, I'm outie. I'll be back tomorrow.